Good morning. Today we're here with Dale Lockamy, here with HomeTeam Inspection Services. He is the owner of HomeTeam Inspection Services. And as we know, a lot of times home inspections can be extremely overwhelming. And Dale's here today to take a little bit of the fear out of that and explain the report and what you need to know and what may not be so important. So thanks for coming today, Dale. We're excited to hear all about inspections.
Thanks for asking me.
You have that now. Also looking here with the next thing is Dale provided a pamphlet of some stuff to do with his company. So HomeTeam Inspection, I'm going to click this over to you guys so you can have that to take a look at. All righty. So there we go. That is some information from Dale. I'm going to pull this up here and I'll let you start at the top. Talk about this for just a second, Dale. Then we're going to get to your report.
Okay, I think from the standpoint of HomeTeam Inspection Service, we've obviously been supporting the DFW Metroplex for over 20 plus years with the incredibly high level of the inspection process. And we have our customer service is really second to none collectively. But I think what makes us very unique is that we use a team approach in most of our inspections, whereby we bring in multiple inspectors at the same time. They're all licensed and pretty much they work cohesively and together in order to do the home inspection, and pretty much you have multiple eyeballs in your property. So from your client, it's very one of the more thorough inspections on the marketplace today. So very unique from what we do.
So you go through it much faster, I would assume, to the client because there's more people?
Very much so. Go through it typically half the time. A typical home inspection will take you 3.5, 4 hours, depending upon the size of the house. We'll do it 2.5. It's even more pronounced if you're doing a larger home. Sometimes we may bring in 3 inspectors if you're doing one of these mega homes, if you would, 6,000 or 7,000 square feet, which we also have a tendency to do.
So I really, really like that. I've been on that side as well and seen how fast that goes, and it feels a lot better. And our time is very valuable as agents. So yeah, that's an important thing. Also helps a homeowner. So they're there, they're out of their home a little less time. So those are some really good things. And it also seems like, do you have the people specialize in certain things so they get better over time at that?
Well, we have some of our inspectors are a little more specialized in certain areas or not, but they're all licensed, with Trek. So they all can do inspections on their own, if you would. But depending upon if they do a lot more of plumbing or electrical, we have a tendency to kind of gravitate towards that direction. Our software allows us, we have one report. Our software allows us to work, within that report. It's all iPad based, if you would. So it has one output, but we have one lead inspector that's leading the show on that given inspection, however.
Okay. So is there anything here in particular on this brochure that you want to point out?
I think the 3 keys is the 3 bullet points here. We're called fast, trusted, and accurate. We're obviously fast. We just talked about our team concept. We're trusted because we've been around for an incredibly long period of time. All our inspectors are licensed and been doing this for 5+ years alone. So they're very experienced. We're accurate because we have working together. They cohesively kind of interact. And we just don't really miss things at the inspection. So we're very accurate and we present those things very factually, but yet very, very unalarming.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's really, really key because sometimes you look at the report and you just get the report back and you sent one over to us in advance. So I'm going to send this over to everybody. So Dale, in just a second after we hit enter on this, the agents will be able to go ahead and look at this same report at the same time while we're going through it. But this report on its own is 42 pages long. So immediately just getting a report, I'm going to feel like, whoa, there's a problem. Why would I ever buy this house? This report is 42 pages long.
Well, in this particular case, this particular sample report, it's actually a peer beam foundation. It's an older home. And one of the reasons I have it as a sample, because it kind of shows a collective, all the things that can come up in a given home. And I think it shares that. This is probably more the exception of the rule. Most of our reports are probably in the 28 to 32 page arena. And we're highlighting, and we take a lot of pictures, but we don't take multiple pictures necessarily of the same deficiency. But in this particular home, it definitely showed a few key things that I could talk about, in particular around the foundation. So in this particular house, as I said, it was built in the late 1960s, and it was a pier and beam. So what's very important, some of the things we look for when we go underneath that home is basically we look at if you look at the beams, In this
Go
particular
ahead. You can
example,
drive. You can use the mouse. You can show everyone. They
pretty
get to
much
see
the
what we're
beams
looking
up
at.
here, you typically have your piers supporting the beams, but all these beams are twisted. So you can't see totally, but here this guy's crooked. So all that will play in how the subflooring is above the floor. So we've already done the interior of the home. So we've always would have felt that, experienced that, if you would. So you're underneath, and you want these piers to be straight. You want these beams to not be twisted whatsoever, and they just need, which is really the stability of the foundation of that floor. Very key.
Yeah, this one up in the upper left, you can see that one is getting torqued.
Very much so. And through the course of time, obviously not a lot has been done about this particular house over the course of time. Now, this would probably be an extreme condition we see, but even as we see these kind of things through the house and through this foundation, we're going down to here, you see where here's some of these piers, kind of like they added some additional support, really didn't do the job. Here you've got something underneath that's really not supporting the structure. Also, we see quite often insulation underneath the subfloor, it falls down, which is also not a good thing. And you can also see underneath the subfloor either when there is insulation. So a comedy of things going on here. And it kind of culminates where in this particular house, they tried to fix a few things with car jacks, basically, and
Nice.
Obviously this is not something that should be left behind. And then in this particular example, this was actually an addition to this home. And basically these piers, this was the original garage floor that was actually done for that house. And they just put basically the piers, wood piers, by the way, underneath that subfloor on that addition. So what will happen if this garage, which will probably move at some point, then it will impact this guy, which will in turn impact the flooring. So there's a lot of things underneath the house you're looking for. But as we present this information to the client, we have to be, obviously, there's a lot going on here. It needs to be rectified, but everything is rectifiable. And I think we try to present it quite in that direction.
Okay. Yeah, no, because it's important. We still want to sell the home, right? I mean,
Very much
now,
so.
now this house here in particular, there's some stuff going on.
Very much
I think
so.
it probably would be reflected in the price where it is and all those different things. We probably are reflecting that in here. But yeah, no, that's really good data there.
And I think the thing I would also kind of, we're going to get down here to the wall area real quickly. And the reason I'm getting there, because we would have already walked on the outside of the house. So as agents, as you're walking around a home, here you got some stair step and vertical cracks on the exterior. So one thing that I would highly recommend is you're walking the home, just pay attention to the exterior, especially seeing a lot of cracks that are big in nature. All cracks are not created the same. Some are totally okay. We see them in a lot of homes. But when you see a sundry of different things at the same time, then you just want to like get a red flag. So maybe this home you want to take a little extra care to look at.
All right. So you're saying a stair step crack. So would be this one here in 2H?
This would be here in 2H. Here you see this one in 2G. Here in this case, in this particular one, you kind of see this one here. So those would be obvious that you would see walking around on the home. So you just want to, maybe that's a home, there's going to be some topics potentially, and you just want to be aware of that situation as you're talking to your client. So maybe that's a home you don't necessarily push very hard to your client or not. Obviously, that's your decision, but that typically will lead itself to other things, which we saw underneath, which ultimately this up here is what caused all the cracking. So something to be looking for. This here, these situations with the piers and the beams ultimately led to the exterior of the house here. So they're all connected, which foundation topics are. So this house, we're trying to talk about the good things about the home the best we can. But as I said, we have to speak factually. Okay. But we also are very unalarming because all these stuff is really fixable with the home, quite truthfully. So that's really the foundation portion of this house. Okay. It's something that is of thoughts. Now, another thing that's pretty key when we do an inspection, I'm going to move up here to the attic real quick. This one is really not that big of a deal. We see many times we see insulation. You have walls, they're not insulated. Not a big deal. You put it back. Sometimes you see structure. This was actually a truss roof structure. And you see these are called cords here. And they're basically, there's some homegrown, kind of broken, if you would. And really the net effect of this is it could impact your roof eventually. In this particular case, we didn't see any deflection here, but it could lead to that if they're not rectified. So we try to point that out to those customers that it just needs to be rectified over time. And also in this particular case, this house had some moisture and some leakage going on up here on the roof at one time. This roof had been replaced, but they don't always fix the stuff inside the attic. Yeah. So in this particular case, it had some, it was a termite issue at one point. Now this had been treated, but this was pretty much prior damage that was resulted. So in this,
and not fixed,
and not remedied in that respect. So those are just things that you have to be aware of. But the roof in this had been rectified, but they didn't necessarily do the complete job here. So we just bring that up to the both to the buyer and buyer agent's attention that it just needs to be rectified.
Okay.
Now the final thing I'll probably like to talk about today is in the electrical world. And the reason I get down there in this particular house, get down here to the electrical section. I'm moving pretty quickly through the walls, but apologize for that. Let's see. Here's an electrical. When we do an electrical inspection, we pretty much look at the panel and we look at all the branch circuits, which is pretty much the circuits going out to the various walls and all the receptacles in the house. But in this particular house, one thing that we look for is the type of panel, electrical panel that we have. In this particular case, it was actually a Cisco panel, which any panel that's a Cisco or Federal Pacific panel, we obviously recommend at a minimum, you have an electrician come out and verify that it's all in good working order. But in most cases, we do highly recommend that we evaluate should it be replaced or not. Both these types of panels have history in regard to where the circuit breakers inside the panel, they did not, pretty much when there was a short circuit, they didn't actually basically trip at the right time, and ultimately you could cause a potential fire hazard, if you would. So that's the reason why they're no longer in business. That's why they got outlawed, and that's why in most cases we always recommend their replacement.
All right, so highlight this name here, and you can show that name to everybody. So if you see that name, it's just a little something to remember there.
And this particular house was unique because it had a Cisco panel as the main panel, and then there was actually a sub panel, which is a secondary panel.
Oh, they had both?
That was a Federal Pacific panel. That is very odd, very extreme. You don't see that very often. But in that case, whether or not you get it replaced or not, you minimum should have an electrician come out and verify that the circuit breakers within this particular panel should be rectified. Now, also in this particular case, it was an older home. So in this case, it had a couple other topics. You notice these wire here's, they were double tapped, which means you had two wires in a connection. That's basically an ultimate no-no. You don't do that. You got to have it to its own connection. And also in this particular panel, there was no primary shutoff for the panel. That's also another no-no. So if you need to shut the panel off, you'd have to go shut off the individual circuit breakers in the panel. You just couldn't kill power with one particular move. So this had a lot going on. Definitely this would stand out in an inspection, you know.
Dale, what is there a year that they stopped putting those panels in? That like if after a certain year a home built would probably not have that?
Probably any house built. The actual Federal Pacific panel started in the 50s. It was pretty much pulled out of production in the mid 70s. So any home typically after, I would say early to mid to late 70s, you wouldn't start seeing it. And in the 80s, we don't see those kind of panels.
So it would be an older home.
It would be an older home. And there's nothing, as I said, from that panel, you have them. It's not absolute. You have to replace them, but you minimum need to have an electrician come out and verify that the circuitry is still okay.
Right.
All righty. So that's going to give us our time for today. Now, since Dale is totally super knowledgeable, what I think I'm going to do is after we log out here, I'm going to take a couple minutes and maybe we'll go through the home inspection a touch further. And what I'm going to do is record an extra session, but I'm going to let everyone go so you guys get to work. I'll post that later on the Wikipedia page, like a bonus spot from Dale. And Dale also brought us something here today. So maybe tell us what you got for everybody. You have one, right?
I just got one. So,
okay.
you know, we have to kind of.
We're going to give it away.
I'm going to give it away. So I'm going to ask a single question.
Whoa!
I guess,
I like this a lot. All right.
I thought about this a
Get
little
ready,
bit.
guys.
Thought about this a little bit. Nothing too crazy, really. Simple rule. You know, obviously the home inspection industry started. Actually, it's fairly new. It only started in the 90s, quite truthfully. But
Okay.
you contrast that. And we're really this country is one of the only ones that actually does home inspections. The rest of the world really doesn't. So here's a simple question: of all the homes in America, what percentage of homes actually have, on pre-owned homes, actually have a home inspection done? So what is that number in percentage?
Percentage. So the question directly is percentage of homes in the U.S. that are actually inspected professionally.
Professionally,
Of
Prior to
all
being
homes sold.
prior to being sold.
All right, and that is the calendar year of the most recent number you
Well,
know.
that's just kind of a global number that's always
Don't
out
answer,
there.
Mike.
That doesn't
Let
change.
the
So,
agency answer.
Well, no,
so
everyone
whoever
can
gets the
answer.
closest, they win
Okay.
the prize.
So I'm thinking, well, so I'm guessing too. I'm in. So I think I'm going to walk through my logic. I hear a lot that Texas is one of the states that leads the way with home inspections. It's like one of the top couple that actually have them. They say a lot of states don't have them, but Texas is a large one. I'm going to go with 8% is my guess.
What are people touching?
Whoa.
Did you say 8?
No.
8.
Okay.
The whole country.
8's pretty low, Mike.
Well, most of the states don't even have it.
All right, so,
So
Mike
it's
said-
monitored.
Well, actually, most states do have home inspections. Now, what's very unique is Texas is one of the more regulated states. So the majority of the country, you do not have to have any type of criteria or credentials to inspect a home. You can just say, I'm a home builder. I'm going to inspect a home today. So we can even narrow it to, it's a similar number. We'll even narrow it to the Dallas-Fort Worth area. What is the state
The
number-
Whoa.
Now-
That's a way different number.
8% is way off, so I'll give you that. But that being said, it's very similar across the country, but we'll just narrow
All
it down
across
to
the
Dallas
country.
Fort Worth. This is Dallas Fort
Oh.
Worth, same number.
Whoa, I wouldn't have thought
25
that.
here.
I thought Texas was one of the only places.
Yeah.
All right, well, go ahead. Shauna says 90. Amy says,
Well, originally I said 40. I thought it was like just
Yes.
across. But now I'm thinking Dallas or here.
oh
I'm thinking it's
no.
really high.
Well, I'm truly out, so I'm just going to stay out. I can't redeem
No, I'm
myself
gonna stick
after
with
that
40%.
number.
The original
Amy
was
goes
40.
40.
Okay.
Shauna says 90.
I don't
And
want you-
hey, what'd you go with, Courtney? You can win too. 35. All right. And Dale, the answer is
The answer is 90.
90. Oh!
Okay.
We've got a wiener.
All
Oh!
right, well, we got
Oh,
that.
Shauna, bring
Okay.
it in.
So I know this is just a home team mug,
Oh,
but
cross?
but there are a couple gifts inside. Okay. We have a little gift card, so you can go at Starbucks, go get your favorite drink. Okay. And there actually is a card. So, you know,
Come on, so people can get on here.
so here you go.
Wow.
All right. So the wiener and Shauna.
Across, it's 90%.
First, it's
90%.
our Super Bowl squares.
Nice.
There we go.
Oh.
There we go. So we do have a little gift card from HomeTeam. So you go to Starbucks, get your favorite beverage. And now HomeTeam, I never discount our services because I just never do. It's just something that I don't believe that we should do because we're very proud of our deliverable. But I do have within this little ticket, there is a $40 discount for any customer that you'd like to give this to for any home inspection,
Very nice.
any size, any shape, any amount of that scenario.
That's
So
awesome.
it's something I now started to do to entice you to maybe a new home buyer that would actually fit. That's usually where I see this more applicable. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
There you go.
Way to
Yeah,
go,
very nice.
Shauna. All right.
Ooh.
Well, that's going to conclude this version of TNT. Sorry I kept you guys a little longer, but I guess now we know 90% is the number. Thank you very much. You did an awesome job on that. See you later.